Okay, so for my project, I'm doing focusing on foster care and those who suffer with disabilities that we see within the foster care and foster home systems. So, what exactly is foster care? Foster care is a system in which a child, a minor, has been placed into some sort of ward, group home, or private home setting that's in the care of a state certified caregiver. These are often referred to as like a foster parent, foster home, or the child can be placed with a family member if it's approved by the state. But all of foster care and everything is mandated through the government. So the placement of a child is arranged through the government or some sort of social service agency. One of the statistics about foster care is a child enters foster care every 2 minutes here in the United States, and this is one of the stats from 2014. So why are children removed from their homes? So when we look at foster care and how the process first starts in a home, there's a lot of different factors that come within, but the number one leading cause is neglect and abuse. So we see 62% of the reason why children are removed from their homes is neglect. Some of the other larger issues are drug abuse, caregiver inability to cope, physical abuse, housing, child behavior problems. So there's a lot of different reasons that children are being removed from their homes or away from their families or parents. But the number one is neglect and malnourishment of a child. Here's some quick facts about foster care and foster homes. There's over 437 children and youth that are in our foster care system in the United States right now. There's always over 400,000 children in the foster care system. Like, those numbers are always that high. 45% of foster children live in a non-relative foster family homes. So 45% of that number, children are with strangers, if you would say. They're not staying with any family members. 32% of foster children live in relative foster family homes. So 32% do live with some sort of family member or bloodline. 23% of foster children live in institutions, group homes, trial and pre-adoptive homes. So looking at like centers or settings that there's more than one child there, pre-adoptive homes where they might be getting adopted, they're not if they've been in foster care for too long, or normally younger children are adopted first. Some quick facts for foster care. Last year, there were more than 10,500 children in foster care. These are looking at the state of North Carolina. But the national average age of kids entering foster care is only 7 years old. And again, neglect is the number one reason children are removed from their home. Children, one of the most famous quotes that we see that false foster care system is, they don't need a lot, just your love. So that's one of a big state advocacy quotes that we see. More facts about foster care centers and homes. On average, 13% of children from ages 6 to 14 that are in foster care suffer from some sort of disability. So this is just entering foster care, and that number that we saw, 13% suffer from some sort of disability before they enter foster care. Once placed in foster care, kids with disabilities can experience further deterioration in their health if their foster care placements aren't able to meet their particular needs. Foster children with a disability tend to be less successful in obtaining a permanent placement, and they're also frequent victims of abuse. So we see a lot of mistreatment of children with disabilities, and that's one of the biggest setbacks for children with disabilities. Before they're even entering these homes, they already are set back and suffer from disabilities. So a lot of times these children are being placed into homes that are not equipped or trained, if you will say, to take care of them and know that their needs and their abilities of that center around their disability. So a lot of these children suffer worse in the long run when they enter the system because they're not giving or having the proper care that they need. 61% of children removed from their home due to abusive neglect, as we talked about. But 34% of children removed from their homes due to parental drug use. Um, Again, these are just numbers of percentages of why children are taken out of their homes. But abuse is one of the leading causes to further develop disabilities in children that face foster care homes. So, along with these issues that the children go into the homes facing, they come out with a lot of more disabilities or issues. Some troubling patterns regarding disability emerge among children in foster care. We see a lot of issues there regarding foster children. There's a study that showed that more than 50% of those studied experienced mental health issues after foster care or while they're in foster care. 22% of children in the general population of the other children affected, 25% experienced PTSD, and 20% of foster children experienced major depression compared to only 10% of children in the general population. So there are a lot of statistics out there that compare children of disabilities to the regular general population, because there are issues with children with disabilities in foster care that are not being addressed properly. Neglect within the system. Studies have shown that many children with disabilities within the foster care system are often overlooked. This includes their mental and medical health needs. So many foster children also have diagnosed disabilities ranging from minor developmental delays to significant mental and physical challenges. So there's no restriction on what disabilities that can be seen within the foster care system. And with the numbers of children that need care and attention, it is so hard for the system to be able to put them in an adequate home, especially so fast and at the growing rates. This is why a lot of their mental and overall medical health is overlooked, because there's just not an ability to be able to make sure that every child is fully equipped. This is a issue that was published by the National Council on Disability. It was written to the president in 2008, and it focused on youth with disabilities in the foster care systems and different barriers to success, and they kind of proposed like things that they feel needed to be changed. And although they stated that the American foster care system has come a long way with that, there needs to be more ways to ensure the health and well-being of the children and the youth in foster care. As it says, indeed both a child welfare issue and a disability issue. So it's the overall well-being of the child needs to be more addressed. That way that children with disabilities aren't overlooked. This is another sort of proposal that was made by two organizations in 2004. The United Cerebral Palsy and the Children's Rights formed an alliance to improve policy and practice for children and youth with disabilities in foster care. Through the partnership, the two identified promising service delivery approaches for meeting the needs of the population and developing policy. So looking at better ways that homes can be equipped and understand how to develop with the child. The joining of the forces of the child welfare and disability service and advocacy communities at the national, state, and local levels is a critical step in beginning to address these issues. So even if it starts, there's issues within the entire system, state and local levels, and bringing light to this issue is what these two groups did, and how they can try to begin this sort of umbrella effect and go over these organizations. This looks at a profile of children in foster care, so it goes over age, race, and placement. 40% have been in foster care for more than 2 years, so that's a lot of moving. Foster care is very fast-paced, as a lot of resources stated. It's a lot of bouncing around. And that is also something that is really hard with disabilities in children, is being able to go from one home to another. They'll have to go through new doctors, new establishments, new schools, and it's very overwhelming to children with disabilities. And that's why we see an increase or more of a disadvantage, as I should say, that these children with disabilities have, and it puts more pressures, and we see increased amounts of worsening of disabilities, or even children that develop these disabilities further along because of these issues that they endure in their foster homes. And research supports that many children who suffer from abuse, whether it be before or during their time within the welfare system, they have a greater chance of acquiring a disability of some sort. So as I mentioned, like mental health, PTSD. While determining the cause of a disability for an abused child and many times is difficult, research has assessed that disabilities are often caused and or exaggerated by abuse. So the number one reason that children are taken out of their homes is neglect and abuse, and foster homes are just adding a bigger stressor to that, as they also oftentimes endure some form of abuse. Data also suggests that children born with forms of disabilities are more often abused and more often relinquished to the child welfare system, either by force or choice. And abuse and trauma also happens within the system itself. In one study, 1/3 of children in foster care reported some type of maltreatment while in the foster care system. The challenge in determining the cause of disability for foster children is just one of the barriers to figuring out how to best support them. So, as I've mentioned, 1/3 of children in foster care experience more maltreatment than what they already endured before they entered the system, which is more of a stressor on a disability and can lead to forming a disability. So that's my project. Thank you.